What is going on, everybody? Back again today. As you can tell by the title, we're going to be talking about a topic, and the topic is Warhammer 40,000, the tabletop game, easily accessible to new fans? Is it easily accessible to new people who want to get into the hobby? Uh, Now, I want to clarify something real quick before we start talking about this much further. One of the common discussion and debates around Warhammer 40,000 tabletop is whether or not it is affordable or too expensive. That is not what we're talking about here today. We're not talking about how expensive it is or whether or not it is affordable. We're talking about whether or not it is easily accessible to new people. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get this. I can feel that it's just uncomfortable on my head. But yeah, we're talking about whether or not it's easily accessible. Because most of the time, if you watch videos online or read forums on Reddit or whatever, people will tell you about how it is affordable and about how there are ways you can go about getting yourself a 2,000 point or whatever amount of point you want, getting yourself an army to play the game with, and there are ways you can kind of finesse it and finagle it to get it cheap. It's not the affordability that's the problem. It is it's not the money, it's the time. That's what makes it. And the answer is it easily accessible? The answer is no. It's not an easy to access hobby. Uh, it's there's a huge investment of time involved with Warhammer 40,000, and that time it's not like some other gaming hobbies where the common expression with video games, electronic gaming, is plug and play. It's not that. It's not plug and play. I cannot walk into the gaming hobby store and just buy all the me. Let's say I had a buddy. Okay, me and my buddy, we're gonna go to the hobby store, and we're gonna walk in there, and we're like, we wanna buy everything we need to start playing Warhammer 40,000 today. Now, we're not that's just not doable. You cannot do it. Uh, okay, well, what about tomorrow? Well, why? Well, first of all, why can't we do it in a day? Why can't we get started and start playing in a day? Well, you're gonna have to go buy yourself the models. All right. Then at the very least, you're going to have to cut those models out of their sprues and you're going to have to assemble them, put them together. And then you're going to have to read the rule book and watch some videos online and learn how to play. That, all of that, maybe you could get to it in a day, but I don't think so. Now, that's like the very bare bones basic. The other thing we're not talking about here is painting your miniatures, painting the models. Once you have them cut out of the sprues and you assemble them, put them together, they're just the gray. They come like here's a this is the arm for a space marine. He's holding a gun. It's just gray. So they come unpainted, unassembled. You have to put it together and paint it yourself. If you are new to this hobby, that's going to take time. That's going to take time. And it's not simply a matter of painting them, it's painting them well. Because let's be honest, nobody wants shitty looking miniatures. You know, anyone who's ever even considered getting into Warhammer 40,000, and what I mean is like you've actually gone to the store, you found yourself a local hobby game store in your community, you've gone to it. A lot of you might have seen, like behind some glass cases in the store, some really nicely painted Warhammer 40K models, and they look awesome. That's what everyone wants. Not everyone has the talent to do that. And even if you do have it within yourself, the potential to paint those models that well, you're probably not going to be that good on your first try. So that's where the investment of time comes in. It's not, okay, I can go get the stuff that I need from the store and be playing this game with cool looking models quickly. It doesn't work that way. And it's not the expense. That's not the problem. It's the time. It's people going, the amount of time I will have to put into this before I get to the point where I enjoy it, like truly enjoy it, is large. And a lot of that has to do with the painting of the models. Now, a lot of people who are already into this hobby, they're going to go, well, that's half the hobby. You know, that's just the way the hobby is. If that's not for you, then it's not for you. Okay, fine. But let me put it to you this way. Um, Warhammer 40,000 has started to grow in popularity, and it is starting to become a little more mainstream. There are a lot, and I mean a lot, of books, novels that take place in the Warhammer 40,000 universe and story published by Black Library, and those have become very popular. A lot of them are actually really good reads. But the Warhammer 40,000, all of it, Warhammer 40,000 started as a tabletop game, and it's going to slowly veer away from that. It will. It is inevitable. It's going to happen unless the game becomes much quicker and easier for people to access and start playing and learn to love. Especially now with Henry Cavill's announcement about, you know, the whole live action series franchise with Amazon kind of thing going on. If that takes off and proves successful, a lot of people are going to become very interested in Warhammer 40,000. But most of them are not going to be down to put in the amount of time necessary to get themselves a well-painted army. They're not. And a lot of people are not going to be willing to shell out the extra money to have like someone who's already good at painting the models paint their army for them. They're not going to be willing to do that. The Henry Cavill TV show or whatever it ends up being, it'll get them interested, and then they're going to go look into it, and then they're going to see just how much money and more importantly time is going to cost. Like I said, it's more the time than the money. The money's an issue, but it's more the time. They're going to see how much time is going to be required to get into this hobby, and then they're going to go, nah. And what we're going to slowly start to see is, even though the Warhammer 40K tabletop game is what started it all off, that's going to take a back seat, and it's going to become more about the story. Similar to how, like, you know, Marvel started off in the comics. The comics are where it all began. But the comics have taken a back seat. It's all about that live action MCU franchise. That's what's going to happen with Warhammer 40K. Unless the game becomes much more easily accessible, quicker to access and enjoy for new fans. I have struggled for years. Like, I first found Warhammer 40,000 when I was 19 years old. And I found it through the Black Library books. I read the Ultramarines Omnibus, Space Wolves Omnibus, the first Caiaphas Cain Omnibus. I've read a couple Horus Heresy books. Um, I've read a decent amount of like Black Library Warhammer 40,000 books. That's how I was always into Warhammer 40,000. And there were several times through my life since I was 19 that kind of like I started to get like, maybe I should try the tabletop game. And every time I talk myself out of it, because I was like, you're not gonna do it. Like, you'll I was like, you'll buy the model, or models plural. You'll buy the paints and the brushes and everything you need. You'll start painting them, and one of two things is gonna happen. Best case scenario is you actually paint a model, and it turns out halfway decent. But then you're gonna have to sit there and go, okay, this process that I just went through to paint this guy and have him turn out decent, I am now going to have to repeat that process and spend that amount of time on an entire army of models. Then, after investing all of that time, I better be damn sure I'm committed to like getting into this and playing the game. Because another thing to consider is, when playing Warhammer 40,000, you can play it on like your kitchen tabletop. You can, and you can use random shit like a candle or a soda can, as like terrain and like obstacles in on the battlefield. But that's not fun. This is all about the fun factor. We're not talking about the bare minimum to get to play this game. We're talking about the bare minimum to truly enjoy it and have a lot of fun with it. And to have a lot of fun with it, you need a lot of that extra fancy shit. You just do. Sorry, that's just the way it is. You need really nicely painted models. You need a nice terrain table, tabletop gaming table that's like set up and decorated with terrain. You need the fake trees and the little models of like castle ruins and just different shit. Like you need all that shit. And very few people have the money or time to have that at home in their home. Some people have it. Some people dedicate the absolute fuck out of their lives to this hobby, and they have that stuff. I'm not one of those people, and a lot of these new fans that are going to be coming into Warhammer 40,000 in the near future, a lot of them, they have adult lives, families, children, careers. They're not going to get that into it. They're not going to build themselves a gaming terrain table. They're not going to they're not going to want to invest the time to properly and really like get really good at painting miniatures and painting them super super well to the point where they can enjoy playing with them. And the only like using myself as an example, the only alternative I have, like we were talking about, like all those times I've considered playing the game, and I talked about like best case scenario was the model turns out fine, but now I have to repeat this process for a whole army, and then once the army's done and painted fine, now I have to commit to going up to my hobby store. Like they do Warhammer 40,000 night up there every Thursday night, and they have terrain tables. I think they have like one that's set up like made to look like a desert. They have one that's set up to made to look like it's like castle ruins. One's like a foresty terrain swamp. They have a bunch of them, but they do Warhammer 40,000 game night on Thursday nights. And with the job that I have, the career that I have, at best I could go up there every other Thursday night. And that's if there's nothing else that happens to come up or be going on those Thursdays. Or maybe on that Thursday, I just don't feel like going. I have to take that into account as well. But knowing that, I have to think if like that's best case scenario is I've now put in all of this time to have this army really painted nicely, and now how much time am I really going to go play? That's something else you have to consider, you know. If it was quicker, if it was easier to access, if it was just like, hey, I could go have if I could somehow obtain if it could be easy for people to obtain a very well painted, nice looking Warhammer 40K army within a day, that would help. Because let's compare it to some other games. I Dungeons and Dragons. I understand you need a group to play with. That's part of it. But so you get a group of friends together and you got a guy there who has, he's played before, so he's going to be your DM. Great. But all of you other noobs, you still need your stuff. You can go to the hobby game store and you can buy everything you need for Dungeons and Dragons and be ready to play within a matter of hours. And you could start a game. Go up to the store, drive to the store. Like for me, let's say it would be like a 20-minute drive to the store, buy everything I need, 20-minute drive back home, open everything up, sit down at a table, write down a character sheet, create a character with the help of our DM, and that there's like let's say there's like three of us plus the DM, and he's helping us all make characters. So we're looking at probably about 3 hours. We could probably have, as long as you have a DM to help you and get you started, you could have traveled to the store, bought everything you need, come back home, made a character, all the three of you made a character, and be playing Dungeons and Dragons, your first game of Dungeons and Dragons ever, within 3 hours. That's the accessibility level of that Warhammer 40K just does not have. You cannot do that. You cannot go, okay, I want to get into Warhammer 40,000 and I want to play my first game today. You can't do it. Maybe in a few weeks, after you finish painting your army, and that's if your painting skills were satisfactory enough for you and you didn't fuck them up. That's another thing to talk about. It might take you a while to develop your painting skills. I know there are tons of like YouTube tutorial videos out there that can kind of teach you tips and tricks. Some people just don't have a steady hand. They just don't. So, yeah, like it's not going to be quick. I want to get into Warhammer 40,000. Okay, good luck. You might be able to play your first game in about a month. Maybe. It's not going to be today. It's not going to be tomorrow. It's not going to be next week because you're going to have to buy everything you need, paint your models, learn how to play the game, and then find somewhere to play with some people to play. It's not going to be quick. It needs to be faster. People need to be able to get into this hobby faster, or else, like I said, the story and the narrative and the lore, that side of things, is going to overshadow the tabletop game. And the tabletop game is going to take a back seat and just kind of be lost in obscurity because it's not fast enough. It's not you cannot is it affordable? Yes and no. Some people say yes, some people say no. That's not what we're debating here. Is it accessible? Is it easy and quick to access? And the answer is no. No, it's not. And that's ultimately what's going to be its downfall. The only thing around it that I could see is like that could help it be much easier and quicker to access is if Games Workshop finally just sold pre-painted minis, and they would have to be painted well. Like I know that Wizards of the Coast, they have like a line of pre-painted miniatures for Dungeons and Dragons. I own many of them, and they're okay. The quality of the paint job quality on those for Dungeons and Dragons is okay. It's not great, but it doesn't need to be great because Dungeons and Dragons it's an creative imagination game that's mostly theater of the mind anyway. So your little miniature is just supposed to be like a slight little physical representation of your guy on the game mat to kind of show his positioning, so you can kind of determine, okay, who's near who, how much movement is what, that kind of thing. Warhammer 40,000 is different entirely. Warhammer 40,000, you want your army to be well painted and look cool. It's not enough that it's just a physical representation of something on a battlefield. You want it to look cool. And so if Games Workshop was going to ever sell pre-assembled pre-painted models, they would have to look cool. They would have to be painted well. Would that jack up the price a lot? I think so. I do. But then again, it's kind of like I don't know. I couldn't even begin to guess how much that would jack up the price. If you instead of buying a unassembled, unpainted squad of Primaris intercessors, you were going to buy a pre-assembled, pre-painted squad of 10 Primaris intercessors. Because how much is let's check Amazon. How much is a squad of intercessors? Okay, so on Amazon right now, a box of unassembled, unpainted Primaris intercessors is $51. So if you were going to get them pre-assembled and pre-painted, you could at least assume it's going to be double in price. So yeah, that's a problem, but it's like, man, I don't know. I just don't know. And then of course the thing that you have to understand is like people do stuff all the time where like they'll buy a certain Warhammer 40,000 box sets just because they want a specific unit or a specific few models out of it, and then they just sell the rest on eBay. So you can buy those pieces from those box sets just on eBay standalone. People do this kind of stuff. There are ways to finagle it. So it's like if they did ever sell boxes of pre-assembled, pre-painted space, like not space marines, pre-assembled, pre-painted models, for the game, and they were painted well and they looked nice. I think the same kind of logic applies. You could buy certain box sets, take out what you need, sell the rest online, and it would generate this, just like it does with the unpainted, unassembled ones. It would generate this like cheaper way of going about getting models. I don't know. I'm not an economics expert. I don't understand the money behind it. I mean, they're cheap pieces of plastic. So long story short, I have a buddy who's played Warhammer 40,000 for years. That's always the way it goes. You talk to anyone who plays the game and they're really into it and they have nicely painted armies. Turns out they've been playing the game and painting armies for a really long time. And you're like, okay, great. He encouraged me. He's like, just buy one model. Just buy one model and paint it, see how you do, see how you like it. So I did. I bought a basic Ultramarine. He was supposed to be an Ultramarine lieutenant. I did not do the whole like lieutenant red and white stripe on his helmet because I'm just, like I said, I'm sticking to the basics here. I don't think the camera is going to pick him up too terribly well. It's going to be blurry. But what I'm trying to say is he didn't turn out too bad. I actually surprised myself with how well I was able to paint this guy. I'm actually satisfied with him. And if I had an entire army of, like just saying Ultramarines, if I had an entire army of Ultramarine models painted this well, I'd be satisfied with that. Now, it took me about 4 days to paint this guy because it's a process and there are steps in the process that where like once you reach a certain point with the model, you kind of have to put it down and let what painting you've done to it dry before you come back and do more. So it's not like 4 just straight days of painting. There's parts of the process where you have to stop and just wait. And so yeah, we're looking at it took me about 4 days to paint this guy. Now, I could probably, you could do more than one. Like, let's say I had 4 Space Marines. I could take a day, I could get each one of them up to that stopping point, stop, let them all 4 of them dry overnight, come back the next day, take the same 4 Space Marines, get them to the next stopping point, stop, let them dry, and you could finish more quickly. But it's still not fast enough in my opinion. Like it's just not. So it's like, was I satisfied with my painting skill? Yes. Did I enjoy painting it? I don't know. Here's the thing. Did I enjoy painting it? Yes. I enjoyed the experience and the process of painting it. Do I still wish that I could just walk into a store and buy them pre-assembled, pre-painted? Yeah. Yeah, I do. If I could buy them pre-assembled and pre-painted and they were this good, I'd be fine. I'd be fine with doing that, and I would pay the upcharge price. I would be willing to pay the upscaled price for the convenience of quicker and easier access to the game, you know. And I'm not saying Games Workshop should switch entirely over and only sell pre-assembled, pre-painted models. Sell the unassembled, unpainted ones for the people who like this, who still like this side of the hobby, and they want to keep doing it. But if you want the tabletop game of Warhammer 40,000 to continue to remain relevant and increase in its, mainstream popularity and kind of stay on level and keep track with people's how do I say this? If you don't want you're going to get, here's what's going to happen. If you don't make the Warhammer 40,000 tabletop game much quicker and easier to access for new fans, you're going to get a lot of people, a lot of new people who call themselves Warhammer 40,000 fans because they are, but they never played the tabletop game. That's the way it's going to be. And next thing you know, the vast, vast, vast majority of Warhammer 40,000 fans in the world are going to be people who just like the lore and the story and have never, ever, ever touched the game and never will. Unless you make it more easy and quick to access and play. There is a way too much of a buy-in of time. It's not the money. People have been debating that for a long time. Is Warhammer 40,000 affordable? Is it too expensive? It's not about the expense and the money. It's about the time. It's about like, hey, I'm gonna like, okay, how much money do I need to shell out to get an army? Um, well, and then there's this YouTube channel, and I'm gonna put a link in the video description of this video. Check it out. There's this YouTube channel. It's these guys. Their channel's called PoorHammer, and they talk Warhammer 40,000 stuff. And he did a video recently where the guy, his goal was with all the current Games Workshop units and products and box sets and everything that's out there. He tried to create a 2,000 point army. In the Warhammer 40,000 tabletop game, your armies are measured in points amounts. A 2,000 point army is like the standard army size that people play with. It's the standard game, the typical standard game. So this guy in this PoorHammer channel, he tried to put together different box sets and model products to build out of to build a 2,000 point army of of any and all factions. And I think there's over 20. There's 20 plus different factions and armies you can play as in Warhammer 40,000. You've got basic Space Marines, you've got Dark Angels, you've got Space Wolves, you've got Grey Knights, you've got Black Templars, you've got Sisters of Battle, you've got Custodes, Necrons, Orcs, Tyranids, Chaos Marines, Demons. You've got so many different factions and armies you could play as. He tried to create a 2,000 point army for each faction out of the box sets and products that Games Workshop are currently selling, and he was only able to do it. Oh, and his other stipulation was, I have to do it for $500 or less. I have to put together a 2,000 point army for $500 or less, and he was only able to do that with 4 out of the 20 plus factions. That means if you're going to buy retail price MSRP, which they also said in the video, what I've gathered doing my research, you should never do that. You should never buy retail. You should never buy MSRP. You should always, eBay, Facebook Marketplace, just other places. Find deals. But it's still, like that says something. Like this is a game where the vast majority of the different factions and armies, if you want to play them, the company themselves are telling you you're going to have to spend over $500 on this army. You, as the person like getting into the game, you can find ways around that expense and make it cheaper for yourself. But the company is they're over here going, no, $500 or more for most of these armies. That's what Games Workshop, the company behind Warhammer 40,000, that's their stance on it, is that, yeah, a 2,000 point army should cost you probably over 5,000. A 2,000 point army should cost you probably over $500. Okay, so with that, here's my thing, Games Workshop. If I'm going to give you $500 or more of my hard-earned money to play your game, I want to play it today, or at the very least tomorrow. I don't want to give you $500 plus and then have to wait a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, 2 months to start playing the game. If I'm going to pay you that much money, I want to get into the fucking game and start playing. But you can't do that because there's the assembly and the painting aspect of it. And that takes a lot of time that people don't have. It requires a lot of skill that people don't have, and that's the big block. It's not the money, it's the lack of quick and easy access to start playing the game, because there's such a huge buy-in of time. There's a huge investment of time required before you can start playing, and that's what people don't want. People are like, no, I want a hobby that I can start enjoying immediately. So something's got to change. Something's got to change, or like I said, the tabletop game's going to kind of go by the wayside, and most people out there in the world who call themselves Warhammer 40,000 fans, they're not going to be 40K tabletop players. They're going to be people who are fans of the books and the lore and the TV shows, and hey, if that's the way this shit goes, then that's fine. That's how I've been into Warhammer 40,000 for the last over a decade, last 11 years, since I was 19 years old. Never played the tabletop game. I only just now at age 30 painted my first mini. Um, I've you seen on my video, I did a video talking about Warhammer 40,000 toy lines. Uh, my favorite one is the Joy Toy Warhammer 40,000 toy line. They make really great Warhammer 40,000 collectible figures. They're about 5 inches tall. They're really nicely painted, articulated, come with cool accessories, and they have figures, toys for like every single faction. They have Necrons, they have Orcs, they have Space Wolves, they have Ultramarines, they have Black Templars, they have Blood Angels, they have the only one I think they don't have is they don't have Tyranids or Eldar yet, but they have Chaos Marines. They have a lot of shit. So like, you know, if the accessibility on this hobby does not come down, if the tabletop game does not become quicker and easier to access and start playing, then that's fine by me. I'm just going to stick to reading the books and playing the video games and watching the TV shows and collecting the Joy Toy figures. And that's good. That's what the Warhammer 40K fandom is going to become, and this stuff is going to go by the wayside unless it becomes quicker and easier for people to access and get into. It's not about the money, it's not about affordability, it's about how quickly can I get into this. And it's not quick, it takes too much time. So that's my take on that. Let me know what you guys think. Leave some comments down below, get a discussion started. If you like this video, please hit that like button. It really helps out my channel. If you want to help out my channel even more, check out some of my other videos and maybe subscribe. Other than that, I'll talk to you guys later.